Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. If you don't know me, my name is Angela and I find my paradise through reading. And today I am going to do my month-end wrap-up for all the books that I read during the month of March. I have that stack here. Yeah, look, this is my first video in front of my bookshelf. I thought it would be fun to change the scenery. I probably won't do all of my videos in front of this particular bookshelf because if you're familiar with my channel, I'm just kind of all over the place, so we'll see. And if you hear dogs and dog tippy tapping on the floor, my dogs are loose and they're walking around, so they tend to sound loud on these hardwood floors when they're walking around. It can't be helped. It can't be helped. Okay. So March was a really interesting reading month. As always, I try to select a variety of books, and I do read mostly depending on my mood and stuff. So let's just start from the top. I'll just grab from here. Okay. This one is, How to Train Your Dragon. And this is by Cressida Cowell. And I got this some time ago at the thrift store. And I picked this up because I enjoy children's books and YA books. But I love the How to Train Your Dragon movies. Love them. So when I saw this, I was like, I knew that the movies were based on a series of books. So I picked up, they only had the first book there. So I was like, let me pick this up and see how I like it. It was really cute. They have a lot of like illustrations. I will not be continuing the series though. I found it, kind of entertaining, but a little too maybe childish for me. And this surprised me because I guess like the movie was way different, and it's expected. We all know that books always, or the movies always differ from the books. It was just so different, so completely different. It was just like, I don't even know how, other than some of the names being the same, like Hiccup and Toothless. It was Stoic. Other than that, like, there was not a whole lot that was similar at all. So that was a little disappointing to me. And I could honestly say for the first time, probably, yeah, I think for the first time I can actually say that I like the movies better than the book. So I am going to put this on my unhaul list since I am not going to continue with the series. And this is something that I know I'm just not going to read again. But it was cute. It was just, a cute little fun time, quick read. I was just really curious about it. If you don't know anything about How to Train Your Dragon, it is the story of these Vikings, this Viking colony. And then you have Hiccup, who is like the weakest, most Viking of the whole colony, but he also is the chief's son. So a lot is expected of him, and he always seems to be a major disappointment to his father. And so everyone kind of bullies him and makes fun of him. And then, to be in the Viking clan, you have to go kind of through this initiation at a certain age where you have to climb this cliff thing, get into the kind of like not a dragon lair, but kind of like a cave where the baby dragons are sleeping, and you have to like grab a sleeping baby dragon and escape with it and train it to kind of be with you and serve you. So that's kind of like the initiation, and I don't know what else to say about it. So again, kind of cute, not for me, like the movie better. Okay, then we have Weaing Heights by Emily Bronte. Look at this gorgeous book. It's so pretty. I just can't get over how gorgeous this book is. It's so pretty. Got the gold foiled edges, glossy pages, satin bookmark. This is the, I got this from Barnes & Noble. It's one of the Chiltern Classics collection. So this is on the list of 100 greatest books ever written, that I am going through, trying to read the 100 greatest books. And the list that I am going off of is from the Easton Press. So what can I say about this book? Oh, so weird. Okay, first, I was pleasantly surprised because I thought this was going to be very Jane Austen-y, in that it was just going to be following a bunch of high society people, visiting people's houses, entertaining each other, and gossiping. You know, just not my thing. But it wasn't. Basically, this is about this man who was renting a property called Thrushcross Grange. That's so hard to say. So he was renting a property called Thrushcross Grange, and the landlord, his name is Heathcliff, lived 4 miles away at a home called Weaing Heights. And so the man, Mr. Lockwood, was like, hey, I'm gonna go visit my landlord. And so he walks over to Weaing Heights and is not welcomed. But they kind of, he ends up getting, you know, they hesitatingly like, all right, just come on in or whatever. And everybody's rude, everybody's miserable. The landlord, Heathcliff, is very brutish, very mean, and just, oh my gosh. So they were not welcoming in any way, shape, or form. They were not like polite society. It was strange. And so he was just very curious about like, what is up with these people? And then he ends up going back the next day. Why? Because he's a glutton for punishment, I guess. I don't know. Had nothing better else to do. Goes back to Weaing Heights the next day. There's a snowstorm. He's stuck there overnight. And so again, he is not welcomed. They like didn't want him to stay the night. They did not want to put him up, but then, you know, he ends up, just everybody there is rude. The servants, the dogs, just, it's terrible. But anyway, he stays the night. He gets back to Thrushcross Grange the next day and gets kind of sick. And a servant lady who came with that property actually knows the whole history of Weaing Heights and everybody there. So while he's sick, he's asking her questions like, what's up with Heathcliff? What's up with this lady that was there, Catherine? And so she ends up telling him the whole story of how Heathcliff came to Weaing Heights and why they are the way they are, I guess. And so it was just like a really kind of tragic and miserable kind of history. And I think what I got the most from this book was just how people can treat you in a certain way. I don't want to always say that you're the result of how you're treated by other people, but when Heathcliff was brought to Weaing Heights by the master of the place at that time, like he was treated as less than, like low society. They figured he was maybe a gypsy. They treated him really badly, and you know, there were just so many things that happened, and he just became very hard-hearted and very cold-hearted. And then the same with the master's like real son. He ended up losing his wife and was just very cold and mean after that. And there was just like all of this stuff. And even like the young Catherine, this young lady who was raised at Thrushcross Grange, and she had a very nice life and everything. But then when she when she ended up kind of being forced to marry someone at Weaing Heights, she was treated terribly. And then you could just see where she was just always a really nice young lady. She became very rough, rough around the edges, and just very, yeah, you know, your situation and the misery. And then you kind of see this turn of events where she starts treating someone there like really nicely and trying to help this person, and this guy who was just always like super mean and very just difficult and closed off and antisocial. You kind of just saw him like start opening up and blossoming, and then, you know, joy was starting to enter the house. You know, like she was able to smile, he was able to smile and laugh for the first time. So yeah, I just kind of saw a lot of that, people reacting to their situations and to how they're treated. And yeah, but overall it was a very dark, kind of dreary, miserable, sad book. It was just, yeah, you know, there was just like abuse. There was a lot of like mental, emotional, physical, financial, every kind of abuse. It was just happening in here. Glad I read it though. I really am glad I read it. Would I read it again? I'm not sure. See, tippy tappies, I told ya. So yeah, I'm not sure I would read it again. It was pretty dreary, but I am glad I read it. So that's Weaing Heights by Emily Bronte. Okay. Then I finally read The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I've had this book for quite some time. I also have Circe, so that's on my list of books that I would like to read. So if you don't know about this, this is following, and it's been a while. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's Achilles. A lot of people are familiar with who Achilles is. He was kind of like half God, but he was mortal, but was very, very strong. Not strong, I would say he was a great warrior. Let's just say that. So this is not from his perspective, but from Patroclus. I think that's how you say his name. But his perspective. Now this follows Patroclus, who was a prince who ended up kind of being disowned by his father and sent to another kingdom because he killed another boy, kind of by accident. And Patroclus was very wimpy, not what his father would have wanted in a son. So him killing this boy was pure accident, but he didn't even have the guts to defend himself against, you know, what people were accusing him of, or even to just lie about what happened. So he's sent away to another kingdom. And this is Achilles, where he is, and they're young boys. And in this kingdom, like this king, like takes in princes and whoever, and kind of trains them into warriors, basically. And so that's kind of like what Patroclus is supposed to be doing, and ends up becoming really close friends with Achilles. And so Achilles takes him as his kind of like right-hand man, his kind of companion, his best friend. And so they are just always together, always, always, always 24/7. So this is following them as they're growing up, as they go away for training. Achilles' mom, who is some kind of goddess in the sea or whatever, and she kind of comes and she hates Patroclus, and so she just hates everything about this guy. And then there Achilles gets called to war, to join this war, because Helen of Troy was kidnapped, we'll see, I don't know. So they are trying to get her back for her husband, and so everybody's kind of involved in this war, and it gets bloody, it gets bad. It lasts a very, very, very long time. And what else can I say about this book? It was fun. It was a good time. And I know this has gotten like tons of awards and people are just like, like out of their minds about this being the best book they've ever read. It was good. I was entertained. I finished it pretty quickly. Um, but I wouldn't put it's not even in my top 10. It's a really good book. Would I recommend it? If you have time, you know, if you're in between books, if you're looking for something different, yeah, sure. It was fun. I enjoyed it. This doesn't break my heart, or you know, some people are like, "Oh, this book destroyed me." Um, no, it didn't happen for me. There were some sad parts. Um, it was just good. It was a fairly it was a solid good book. I think that sums it up. It's a solid good book. Oh, okay. We have Blackwater. Oh, this big boy. Okay, this is Blackwater by Michael McDowell. All right, this was a bit of a chunker. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, this is a series. This is the omnibus version. This is actually 6 books in here. And my plan was to read the first 3 books during the month of March and then the other 3 books during the month of April. What happened though? I couldn't put it down. So I read the whole thing. Yeah. Wow. This was, I recommend this one. This is interesting. Okay, so on the front we have Eleanor, and then we have Oscar and Bray. So so this takes place in Perdido, Alabama. There was just this big flood and the whole town was flooded out. I mean, it got to the 2nd and 3rd floors of some buildings. So the whole town was evacuated. Then you have Oscar and Bray, you know, in their canoe, or a little boat. It's a boat. They're paddling around, just kind of checking things out. And then Oscar kind of notices something like in one of the hotel room windows. And this is, I think, the 2nd or 3rd floor. So they go paddling up and there's this woman, Eleanor, in this hotel room. Bray is like, he's got common sense. All right, this man right here, he's got common sense. He's like, something ain't right. Something's not right about this woman. What's going on? Like, they've never seen, this is a small town. Everybody knows everybody. They've never seen her before. The flood happened like 3 days ago. Why is she here? Like, how did she get here? How did she not get evacuated? You know, nothing seemed to add up. Oscar, he's just like, hey, we're going to help you out. And Bray's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, ask the right questions. But so she had like some kind of a story to tell them. They got her in the boat, took her to higher ground where the rest of the town was kind of waiting out for the flood to recede. And so this is following Oscar's family. It's following Eleanor and Oscar and his family. They were the Caskey family. Okay, so in this town, there were like, it was a mill town. They had wood mills, and there were 3 big mills owned by 3 owners. And Oscar's family, the Caskey family, owned one of the mills. So this is just like kind of like multi-generational. This is going on over like a long period of time. You're just seeing so many changes in the town, the characters, and it's really interesting and it's bizarre because this town is alongside this Perdido River. And so this river is what flooded the whole town. And there is a river monster. So there is this creature who, you know, there's like legends and things like that about how it eats children. It's always taking victims, this, that. And there's just this long history of this river creature that no one's ever seen, but everybody knows that it exists. Okay. And it does. And some awful, awful, awful things happen in this book that just make you cringe so badly, especially when it comes to what this river creature does. Um, but there is also, what can I say? There are also some people that you hate more than this river creature who like will rip a child's limbs off and eat them. Okay, so some people are just so terrible that you're just like waiting and you're kind of rooting for this river monster to take this person out because you're just like, oh my gosh. So it's weird. I mean, when you're talking about some morally gray characters, there are some extremely, extremely morally gray characters. Kind of like Game of Thrones, right? You know, you have like some that you're just like, you know, the Hound, you know, who are, you're just like, man, what a miserable, like a terrible guy. Somebody's got to kill that dude. And then there are sometimes you're kind of like really rooting for him, right? So that's kind of how I felt in this book. Highly recommend. A very dear friend of mine recommended this book to me, and I'm glad he did because this was a good time. Like I said, I was only planning to read the first 3 books, and I couldn't stop. I just kept on going, and I was so involved and so committed to the Kasky family. And it just ended, I think, perfectly. It had pretty much a very good, solid, perfect ending. All the loose ends were kind of tied up nicely with a bow, and you weren't left wondering, you weren't left wishing for more. You were just very satisfied with how it ended, which says a lot because I think so many books you're just like, huh? You know, but this was perfect. I think this was great. Very good time. Oh, then we had this one, Leila by Colleen Hoover. This was recommended by a colleague of mine, and I kind of read this in like one sitting. This was a page turner, and was so much fun. And it just had some twists and turns that I never saw coming. But what can I say without spoiling? This this had one of the most amazing first chapters I've probably ever read. It was so fun and so cool. So basically this guy he's playing in a band at somebody's wedding at this that's held at this Airbnb, and he's outside playing with this band, and then there's this woman who catches his eye, and they kind of hit it off. This woman ends up, she's the bride's sister. So they hit it off, and they get into a relationship, and it's just amazing. It's really great. But he had an ex, a crazy ex that caused problems, or was this, she was kind of one of those like psycho stalkers. But yeah, she kind of pops up when she finds out he's in this relationship and tries to kill them basically. But his girlfriend ends up with some brain damage. She has like a brain injury. He decides, let's get away and go back to where we met, to this Airbnb, or to this bed and breakfast, which is like no longer open and operational. So it was like kind of up for sale, and he just wanted time alone so that they can both kind of heal and recuperate from what had happened to them. So they're there. Turns out this bed and breakfast is kind of haunted, and he is actually interacting quite a lot with this entity, which is Willow. Her name is Willow. Um, and it kind of gets to the point where he and this ghost are getting really, really, really close. And it's just so bizarre. It is so bizarre, but man, was this a good time. Okay, Colleen Hoover, I would recommend her definitely if you're just looking for a good time, a quick, easy read. You know, a lot of her stuff is just way unrealistic, okay? Let's not, come on now, okay? we're not trying to like analyze like how realistic or plausible anything is. You have to just kind of go into it having a good time, and I did, and I had the best time. um this was, I would read this again. I would definitely read this again. It really caught me by surprise. I had no idea what to expect from it. There was nothing here that, even in the blurb, that prepared me for what I was about to read. Are you okay, Melody? Okay. But oh my gosh, recommend. If you're looking for a quick read, a good time, good fun story, some like mystery, some paranormal stuff going on, absolutely, absolutely. This was fantastic. Oh my God, loved it. Oh, and the last book. Here we go. Boom, things are gonna start falling down. Okay, so the last book that I read, which is probably actually, I think, the first book that I read during the month of March, was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Okay, this is, look how pretty this is. Deckled edges. Okay, so it's been a while. Let's see if I can sum this up. I actually like bought this just for the cover because I just thought like, oh, how cute. But here, this is following Emily Wilde. She is I guess, a professor at some kind of Ivy League school. Was it like Princeton or some such thing? Does this say? But Harvard, was it? Anyway, it has been working for years on an encyclopedia of fairies, which has never been done before. And she has been, this is just her big work. And she has been traveling all over the world, collecting data and research to put together an encyclopedia of fairies. And so I think this is like her last stop, and she's like the furthest up north she's ever been. So she goes to this town, and she kind of has this colleague. I forget what his name was, but this guy is just insufferable. He just, and he drives her nuts. So she's over here, you know, she says that like he's always taking credit for her work, and he's always just kind of interfering and things like that. So and he's just so cocky and just so full of himself. And, you know, when they do present him in this book, he actually shows up. Like he just invites himself on her expedition and brings a couple students who he's known for like always having students with him, and they act like they're like his little slaves. Like he has them doing everything. He'll send them to chop wood, to cook meals, to do his laundry. So he's just like insufferable. And Emily kind of has suspicions about him. And so anyway, he shows up, and she's out and about doing research, and he does have an ulterior motive for accompanying her on her expeditions and on her research. There is something that he's trying to get out of it and trying to figure out. But this was a lot of fun because it had like a lot of action. There were different fae that they came across and how she interacted with them, how some of them can be extremely, extremely scary, extremely dangerous. So this was kind of like, it was pretty intense a lot of the times. There was a lot of funny and kind of fun stuff. It was really interesting. I had a good time. I read this pretty quickly because I thought it was like really cute and really cool. There was like a love interest. Let's just say that, I guess, you know, a little bit of a love interest thing that was going on mostly towards the end of this book that I was not vibing with. You know, considering everything that had happened, it didn't make sense that this would even be a thing. So if you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. It's just ick, you know, it was just kind of an ick thing for me. So that was this book. The second book I didn't know this was going to be a part of the series. I thought this was a standalone, but book 2 was recently released. And I haven't bought it because they only have it in hardcover, and I didn't want a mixed match set. So if they release a soft cover of that book with the same kind of style, hopefully, so that it's a nice match, then I'll get it. Because I kind of like, is it here? Can we see it? No, it's down here. But like the Priory of the Orange Tree. I have the first book, which is a soft cover, and then when the second book, the prequel was released, it only came out in hardcover. So the hardcover is a little bit taller. It just looks funny side by side. Now they have it in paperback, but what do I do with the hard? I'm kind of back and forth about that because I would love to get it in paperback so that it just like matches side by side, but then I'd have to I don't know. I just don't like having those kinds of problems. So that's kind of why I did not right away go and get book 2, because I learned my lesson. And even something like this drives me crazy. Here, you see the vampire series, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden this one's tall. Why? I don't know. So I've been figuring, I was like, oh, maybe I can find this one that's the same size as these, so it looks right side by side. I don't know. It's the little things. It's just the little things. But anyways, let me not go there. My dog's going upstairs now. But that is all that I had for you today. Thank you so much for hearing me go on and on about these books that I read in March. I feel like I kind of spoke a lot about some of these. Like I kind of went a little more into depth than I thought that I would. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a talky kind of mood today. I don't know. It's like pouring rain out. It is super, super windy. But yeah. And that is all that I have for you today. Those are all the books that I read in March. Thank you so much for joining me. And let me know what it is that you read in March, what you're planning to read during the month of April. If you have any recommendations, I'd be glad to hear them. Anyways, well, talk to you soon and happy reading. Bye.